Hello, my name is Cody Scott, and today we have a very special guest on, a fairly new friend of mine, a fellow metal vocalist and solo artist who puts his efforts into portraying life through art, his lyrics, and his melodies. A perfect picture of somebody who has seen different parts of the world and has his own unique twist on how he perceives the world. With his newest single, Every Bit of It, on all platforms, being the perfect contemplative song to drive, walk, and listen to, I bring to you Josey.
What's up?
What's up? Welcome to the
Dude,
show.
Thanks for having me, bro. Before we kick things off, I just
What are you doing? What is it?
so these are some Topps cards from Japan.
What?
Yeah, I don't if there's a Shohei in there.
Oh
keep
my
it.
God.
But
I haven't had baseball cards since I was like 12 years old, and I had a full book of them, bro.
I wish I still had my collection.
Thank you. Damn it.
Dude. Yeah,
I'm gonna give you a gift now.
it's Nippon League, so it's like
Yeah.
I figure like you're just starting out your pod and everything
love
like that.
that.
It's awesome what you're doing. So
Can I open it at the end of the show?
absolutely.
All
man.
right. Beautiful.
Absolutely.
Start. Oh
Yeah.
my God. That's exciting. Thank you, dude. Thank you, dude.
Of course, bro.
All right. So I love the work you've been putting out. It's as sweet as honey. Your voice and the sounds that come out of your speakers are so beautifully put together.
Thanks.
Where did you, Josey, come from, and how did you land in Nashville?
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. So, I was born in Montgomery, Alabama.
Okay.
From like a very early time in my life, probably from like I was like, honestly, like when I could really go back and trace like memories of actually like remembering shit of like what's going on, like when you're just like that kid.
3-4 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like music was just it was huge. I grew up in a big family. Like my mom's side super into music. My dad's side super into like worship music and stuff like that.
You have brothers and sisters?
So I got 5 brothers, 2 sisters.
Damn.
A lot
That's
of
a big family.
dude, crazy childhood growing up with like just so many brothers and sisters and
Right.
but like we were all super creative too.
Yeah.
And I think when you're from like a big family where you're showing off like just what you're doing to your siblings all the time, because that's really all you got going on.
Where are you in the hierarchy? Are you a middle brother? Are you an older brother?
So there's like different tiers to my family because there's a lot of us.
Okay.
So it's like I have 2 older siblings. I have an older brother and an older sister.
Okay.
And then I have what, 3 other younger brothers than me, and then a younger sister.
Yeah.
So I'm like in the middle, but I'm like not
Yeah.
at the top, I guess.
So
I never felt like an older sibling, I guess.
Right.
But I never exactly felt like I was a middle kid,
Yeah,
if that
yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. Did you guys sort of vibe off of each other? Like, when you were really young, did people go in a bunch of different directions? If you have that many people, I imagine there's the sporty. But like, my next question is, what was life growing up for you? Were you the sporty, geeky, emo, or chameleon? Like, what were they like, and how did that affect where you went? You know.
So I was definitely like a sport kid.
Yeah.
But through middle school, my mom tried to like do her best at homeschooling.
Okay.
And so it was kind of like not having the veil of like just having, just your friends that you would go do stuff with like after sports. So it was like more seasonal when it came to sports, but like that was really when I was like, oh, I'm really, really good.
Yeah.
And I'm an athlete.
Yeah.
But it was like when fall time hit, or it was like off season, it was like, dude, I was outside being the biggest nerd you could probably find, like out in the woods, pretending that I'm, just like
Bear Grylls.
Legolas or some shit, dude. Like just being a complete dork. So like I had a huge imagination, and it's funny because like I remember when there was just like a time of like having your nerdy activities and like your toys and action figures, because I grew up loving Star Wars and stuff like that. But then, you start really getting into sports to where it's like, okay.
Now I'm sporty.
Like I remember just kind of being like, I'm kind of putting away all my like kid nerd stuff.
Yeah. You go from Spider-Man to baseball.
Yeah, but it sucks because like, you know, you'll get made fun of.
Yeah.
For a long time it's like if you were into Star Wars, like like you were going to get like some
especially early 2000s, you're getting it.
Yeah, it wasn't like a cool thing.
So you were trying to tiptoe between jock and nerd and like trying to decipher how much nerd can I bring to jock and like without getting made fun of. Like,
yes, for sure. But then also having like my mom's side of the family was like so into like bluegrass.
Yeah.
And it was just
any artists that come to mind?
Like no, but it's like they were
just around the house in general.
Just around the house and around the community.
Yeah.
Because they were all like my mom's side, like all from Sand Mountain, it's like North Alabama, and it's just like it's a different side of like the state.
Yeah.
I mean, like, dude, like they still like have like church services where they do like the snake handling and shit. Yeah. I think there was actually like a documentary about like the pastor. I think he like tried to kill his wife or some like foul play thing.
Dude, I gotta write this down.
Dude, it's crazy. But like when I was misbehaving as a kid, and my granny,
you get bit with a snake?
No, but she would like scare the hell out of me and just be like, dude, if you're not gonna do this, if you're misbehaving, I'm gonna take you down to the snake church. And I was just like, oh shit. So it was like,
what?
Yeah, dude, my granny, she had some like tricks in her bag. Like it was like if you were misbehaving,
I'd be scared to look in her bag.
Dude, it was either Bloody Bones or like you're gonna go to the snake handling church. And
wait,
that
what's
was
Bloody Bones?
Dude,
what is that?
So there's like a couple of versions of Bloody Bones, and the one that stuck with me as a kid was Bloody Bones lived in my granny's fucking basement.
What is Bloody Bones though?
He's like an old Indian chief that's like a zombie basically. Yeah.
So it's like this mythical, but like in your eyes real.
Yeah,
very much real when you're a kid.
And like, but that also kind of added to like a lot of my imagination growing up too, because like I believed that shit, you know, and like,
oh, I watched Indian in the Cupboard and I was in it, bro. Yeah,
dude, yeah. So it was just like a lot of weird imagination stuff with music because like my mom's side was just like they were all really like talented and like. I never saw him practice, like, you know, but it was like we would like my mom would take me to like these bluegrass Opries, and it's like there was my aunt getting up and playing an instrument. I'm like, dude, I didn't even know she could play, you know. And
just
then
pops up.
And like my pawpaw built banjos out of hubcaps. Like I actually have one at my crib. Yeah, like he would, and I don't know how to play banjo, but you know it's there.
Hey, we're not. It's not over
awesome.
yet.
It's cool.
You can still learn.
It's super cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, like having a lot of weird, interesting experiences with music because it was like this rough, kind of like ragtag side of my mom's family that was like really into like bluegrass and folk and a bunch of weird, like really, you know, cool rock stuff too, like Leonard Skinner. Like that was a big one. And then like my dad's side was like very like my dad was like worship leader and like choir director and stuff like that too.
Interesting, bro.
Yeah, it was like such a weird clash because like I had like on one side of my family was just kind of like rough around the edges and didn't mind their music being that way. Yeah. And like I just appreciated that. Yeah. And a lot of stories within that. And then on my dad's side it was like very, you know, like put together, but it was like also, you know, with like growing up like in church and like I don't go to church now, but like I can sit here and tell you like it musically it does broaden a lot of like your scope of because so many people are listening to different things and if you're a musician like and you're going to church, it's like you're kind of wanting just to hang out with whoever's playing music or, you know.
Well, and the influences of like blues and gospel together, the mix between like my favorite guy in the world is Chris Cornell and the haunting voices that his melodies are very gospel. They're very soul oriented and blues oriented. So, but I'm like I'm getting a mixed bag from you. I'm curious because you have this super articulate voice, and typically most of the people I meet from that area of the United States have an accent, and I think I'm getting a mixed bag. I'm like, is this like, do you have more hillbillies or is it more modern? Like, was it city, but mixed with like sticks? It seems kind of spooky to me. Like you're scared of granny's bag, and also like you have a very put together side of the family, and I'm just curious, like what you have this super articulate voice and like your speaking voice, and usually the people I meet from Southern Alabama, it's like you can hear it in their voice. So I'm like, where did you get your speaking voice from? Is that dad's side, mom's side?
I think a lot of it is just like growing up in Montgomery, and just also having like growing up in a city that wasn't it was kind of backwoods at the same time.
This is where the chameleon I feel like comes out, because I'm like, you're so put together, but you're also from the sticks in South Alabama. I'm from New England, so there's no accents up there really, other than Boston and then get in the car. it's like, but I miss that because I'm from in New Hampshire. But I'm curious to like where, I mean, I guess where you got your voice. Does your mom or dad not have an accent at all?
That's kind of funny. I think like my grandparents on my dad's side, they were really big in like the education system. And they were teachers. And I was around my grandmother majority of like my upbringing through middle school, high school, up until like I left home. And so it was like there was like a lot of speech, just even with my mom, of like, this is not how you say, this, like this is the proper way. And I think that was probably maybe one of the reasons why it wasn't so like super thick for me. And because it's funny, because like when I go home,
like, you have hillbilly friends probably,
dude,
right?
it's so funny. And it's like if I drink like 2 beers with them, like I start like my drawl gets a little bit thicker and it gets a little bit longer, and I start talking way slower. But I used to see that with my mom too. Like when we would go visit like her hillbilly family and stuff, it was just like, damn, like Starla's, she's like back in her bag, like she's saying stuff that I just wouldn't hear her say around the house, Right.
The phrases that come from the South are fascinating,
crazy
dude.
cool,
we don't have phrases anymore. There is no phrases. So let's talk. I want to learn about your teenagehood. So what was it like? We talked about how you had the little Star Wars phase. It's not a phase, Mom. And it's still there. But
still a phase,
Mom.
You
got sporty. So let's talk about like 12 to 15. I'm always fascinated with that era because it was awkward as hell for me. I was a weird boy.
Me too.
Dancing, but also football, like baseball. So I had to like hide that side of me.
That's kind of what I was saying about like the like kind of picking like, do I do this nerd stuff? And like,
so what was it like 12 to 15 for you? Was it awkward? Was it like super bullies still happening? Or you're also like 6'5", so when the fuck did that happen?
So I don't think I was like as tall back then. And I also grew up poor, like really, really poor. Like even when I look back on my childhood, like a lot of my friends, I wouldn't even try to let them know, just because I didn't want anyone to feel sorry for me. It was honestly probably more of like me just trying to have like some respect.
You
like,
don't want
just
pity.
Not letting people think less of me, and just being like scared of that. Whatever.
Well, like my friends would, like my best friend Dylan growing up, his family chose to spend the money on, he had the new cleats. He had the new jerseys, like LeBron when he was huge and came out. And my parents are doing the best they could to give me what they could, but we weren't having that, you know. So
Same.
I'd show up to football practice, first day of football practice with my older brother's cleats on.
Same. All my stuff was hand me down.
Right. So
It was great, you know?
Yeah, I have
Already
no
broken
complaints.
in.
Yeah, I have no complaints. Same as baseball gloves, all that sort of shit. So like, yeah, just not having a bunch of money and I can very much relate to. But like, what was it like socially for you? Were you like outgoing? Were you very quiet and reserved in middle school area? You said you were actually homeschooled, right?
Yeah, so I was homeschooled up until my sophomore year.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
and it was weird because like my older siblings, like they continue to do like schooling with my mom,
Yeah.
and excuse me, it just kind of got to the point where there. I mean, it's a big family. Like my mom couldn't do it all, man.
Yeah.
You know, and just kind of being thrown into, you know, like public school.
Yeah.
Which honestly, like, I wanted that for a
Yeah,
long
I was gonna
time,
say, did you
know?
miss it?
Yeah, because like I was an introvert, but like I love to play sports.
Yeah.
You know, I was even before I was even going to public school. I was already playing in bands, you know, and playing music.
Yeah.
So by the time I was in, you know, high school and going through like just a lot of the average stuff that, you know, like most average high school kids were, you know, just having, I'm not going to say normal because honestly, I didn't really go to a normal high school.
Right.
But it was like, I went to like one prom, and then after that I was like, okay, like got that off the
Yeah,
list.
check.
Yeah, because like I already had like a lot of other things going for me that I really enjoyed and loved and was like passionate about, and music was one of those.
So you said you started bands before you even got to sophomore year of high school. When did you, was it a guitar you picked up first? When was that?
So guitar and basically honestly really bass, dude.
Okay. Okay, he's a
but
bassist.
it was funny because like my older brother, he was like, I'm gonna do the guitar thing.
Yeah.
And I was just honestly pretty defiant,
Sure.
you know, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do whatever you're not doing.
Yeah,
so I was
yeah.
like, I'm gonna be the bass guy.
Yeah.
So
Fully envelop yourself as a
yes.
bassist.
But also like being young and playing bass, is like you can find bands pretty easy that you just jump through. And like most of them were like pretty shitty. Like we would just play like, covers at pool parties.
All of our first bands sucked.
Yeah, and it was great, man.
Yeah.
It was like me and my friend Wes, and we were just like playing like pool parties.
Yeah.
Like in our friends, like in the Gump, and just it was fun.
In
you know,
the
I think
Gump.
we like would play like 3 songs and just like jump in the pool.
Yeah.
And then when I really started going to shows, dude, I was still in middle school.
Yeah.
You know, and
While being homeschooled.
while being homeschooled.
So that's sort of what your social experience was
Yeah.
like. I need to go out to these shows, sort of thing.
and it was like a completely different world for me.
Yeah.
You know, like I was already listening to.
Because you're a sporty as well back then, so it's like you're jumping into a completely different side of things.
And that was like a big decision back then.
Yeah.
Like, at least when you're that young,
Yeah.
because you're like 13, 14.
You're wearing a Braves hat and you're
wearing
going to a metal show.
Yeah. And also, like, your friends that you spent hours with going to practice and, you know, just becoming really close friends with them and their family, their parents taking you back and forth from practice, and like you just being in that community of like playing sports. And then you're just kind of like, oh, like I am passionate about this.
Yeah.
And there was like a lot of things that, like just kind of, I guess with sports weren't emotionally giving me like
The expression.
you know, and I had a lot to say back then because also in between like the decision of like, dude, do I want to be like a jock hero, you know, or do like I want to be in a hardcore band?
Yeah.
Like those are huge decisions back then when you're like at that age and like you're going to shows and you're just like, okay, like there's a different community that like gives me more of a home and it's
A home away from home. Did you jump straight to hardcore? Like from, you know, because like I was a soft boy, like I was listening to Neo and Usher and Chris Brown and weird stuff like that, and then it slowly progressed into like grunge and then metal. What was like? What were you listening? What was in the headphones when you were 13?
Ooh, 13, bro. Like, and that was another thing is like I also even in getting into like the hardcore music, I never just swore off all my other
Right.
genres that I love because I was big into like Waka Flocka was huge.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I was like on the school bus every
Lil
day.
Wayne the Carter was
Dude.
Yeah.
And like Dobie, he was like our local like rap god, bro. Like we loved him. Rest in peace. And so I had so many different influences in my house, given like where my family and like how they were with music, and they were all pickers, and then my dad doing his shit, and
Yeah.
but like also like I was like, man, like you just kind of with like hardcore music, it was so much just raw.
Yeah.
Like
It was an expression you hadn't seen before, and
it was real.
You felt it immediately, sort of thing.
And it was just, I don't know, man. Like just like that art form is like music.
Yeah.
At like its rawest form.
Well, and especially at that age when you're like, I don't know if I'll call it pent up, but like you have a certain amount of energy that you can disperse it in a few different ways. You can be the spaz at school, or you could be the introvert that explodes occasionally, or you could put that into sports. But like this type of energy, I didn't personally have anywhere to put it.
Exactly.
Like, so when I found it way later. Like I was dancing at first, but if I had woken up to the fact that I enjoyed singing, then I probably would have found it at that age. But I imagine when you're 13 and this type of energy can't be expressed in any other way. I don't think. So the screaming, the raw energy, there's no script. You go to a show and people are getting hit. Like you're like, whoa, what the hell's going on here? Whether it was punk or just punk bands, rock bands, or metal especially. But it sounds like you got into metal pretty early.
I did. I mean, I was, of course, like I was listening to like a lot of alternative stuff.
Yeah.
And was into that like probably like 12, 13-ish.
Yeah.
And like when my parents like went through like a really, 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 really ugly divorce. And it was kind of like
around that time.
Yeah. And it was like, man, like doing the sporting stuff, it was like my mom kind of on one side and then my dad on the other side. And it kind of became,
you didn't want to be in between it anymore.
I didn't want to be in between it anymore. I needed like a space where I could just like call my own and like be around like kids that felt like me.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like kids who we weren't trying to be popular.
Yeah.
You know, and we weren't trying to tear down a community. Like it was all super positive about like, trying to help people out. And, like within like the metal and hardcore scene, like there is like, a hierarchy, if you will, to
Sure.
it.
But there's also like the skate community did it for me.
Yeah.
When I was in sports, there's a whole lot of judgment in those types of people, which there's also fantastic people. But when I went to the skate park with my oldest brother.
A lot of angry dads.
What?
A lot of angry dads in like and it's
and there's no dads at the skate park or in these punk shows or metal shows, and there's some hierarchy as far as like new guy and that type of energy, but when you're in you show up multiple times, those types of people, you gravitate towards them because they're not judging you. They don't care what Jordans you have on. They're in beat up fucking Chucks,
dude,
and ripped jeans and stink.
And it's like it's really like kids just need a place to go to, where they can just express themselves and have a community where it's safe, and they can create and make art. And thank God I had that, because like I look at some of my friends that dude, they were moving to other schools in high school because they were like just trying to get the scholarships, and I was just like, dude, my family, way too much going on. Parents divorced.
I couldn't afford it anyway,
dude.
even
It was
with a scholarship.
no.
So
And And like a lot of my friends that gave so much into like the sports and stuff like that, I don't know if they were really giving it for them. And like when you're at that young age, like it's really hard to know,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And I look back on that and it's like, dude, as soon as I got into like the hardcore like music scene and started playing in a band that, you know, like we were popular.
Yeah.
We toured.
Yeah.
You know, we were active as hell, and we were all super young. We were like 17 doing this. Like,
you're not doing it for dad or mom. Because I had the same sort of thing in like baseball, for example. I had like the Druins were this kind of famous family in our town for baseball.
Every town's got one.
Yeah, he was throwing 85 at 13 years old.
Jeez.
You know, that sort of heat. But he also had Tommy John surgery at 16
Dude.
because he was doing 3 seasons a year of baseball, and his parents were pushing him and pushing him and pushing him. And now it's like I haven't seen David in a long time. You're probably doing great, fantastic. But he's like, I think he's doing something in the corporate world now, and it's like, I don't see the benefit in pushing your children to do something, because I had eventually started doing that with football. Like I did 2 seasons of football, switched to lacrosse to get in more of a hitting shape, and I beat the shit out of my body my entire childhood for my older brothers, for my to look good for my family. It's like a very manly thing.
Yeah, it does give you a little bit of status at that age too, which is.
But looking back, it's like I wish Jack Silverman, who's just on the podcast, he went the art route.
I know. I wish I would have went that route too.
And I'm like, if I had that option at 12, 13, I know damn well I would have much rather done that than put on this persona of sporty, you know? So it sounded like you fell into like a group of guys that you fit in with, and like with the metal shit. And you said you toured? Like, what was your first band called?
So, first official band, I guess, that that actually like really touring and playing shows.
Yeah.
Band was called Hosanna.
Hosanna.
And it's funny because like we were just really scrappy, really young, you know, dudes, and
you were bassist.
No,
vocalist.
I was vocalist, and that was the thing is, I mean, it was like kind of even just being pushed in this direction because like even talking about like the sports world and growing up like in that culture too, it's like kind of like with your friend, like probably 3 years ago, I found out that like my probably like top 3 like childhood best friends overdosed.
Damn.
You know, and it was just like one of those guys that.
At what age?
I mean, he was like probably 28, you know, but was
friends
still
of yours.
working in like a baseball organization job.
Right.
And I don't like know all the details.
Yeah.
You know, it had been like years since we talked, and you know, just lost touch.
But it hits you different.
It hits you different because like for me, I grew up, you know, 10 years old, and me and him are just like inseparable for like 3-4 summers, and just playing a lot of baseball together. And but also like his dad was definitely like one of the guys that was like didn't mind picking a kid up by his shirt and put him on the fence, you know.
Dude, those dads, man.
And so there's like man, like I look back on a lot of those things, and like I'm thankful that I didn't stay in it, you know, too long, because I didn't have like the support, and I think that's really what I was looking for, you know, like not even really knowing intentionally.
Just needed a few extra attaboys.
Exactly.
I've talked about it in the last pod. Is, you know, I asked James, who was on the last pod, I was like, why do you think you became a vocalist? And I'm wondering myself why I am. And it's we think it's a theory that like we needed a few more attaboys in a certain realm, you know, of our lives.
Maybe or just being in the room at the right time too, you know, because like that was the thing, was like getting way more involved in music with just like anything, just playing with my friends, and like I was also like writing acoustic music and stuff like that. I mean, I was always like underneath it all, like really into indie music.
Yeah.
But I had so much of this like
Caveman instinct still.
well, dude, I just had a lot of feelings.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't know what to do with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I also didn't want to be crazy. I didn't want to like be, you know, because I had plenty of examples of like even people that were in like the same music scene as me growing up that were getting fucked up all the time and like, you know, partying and just like just beating kids up and shit like that, you know, just like just doing some crazy stuff, you know. But yeah, I mean, just like I guess when you're just finally at that point where like, okay, I have like 2 or 3 of like close friends and I think we have something here.
And you said you toured. Where was it, like regionally? Like
it was like all over Southeast, basically. Okay. Yeah.
What was that first tour like? Was it scary as shit? You just ran away, no money, like sleeping on the floor?
It was like a big build-up because we were a local band. You know, we were from Montgomery, and we had already, before we had toured, we'd already played all over Mississippi, Florida, Georgia, already in Tennessee. So like we weren't just trying to stay local. Like we were
trying to branch out.
Yeah, but we were also like we didn't have shit. You know, we didn't have like most of us didn't have like good homes to kind of come home to. Yeah. You know, so it was like
this is our thing.
Yeah, and it was like intentionally like I didn't have a cell phone on me at that age because like it was easier for me to Friday right as the bell rang for
Get the
me
fuck
to
out of there.
Yeah, hell yeah. And it was like I would literally have one of my friends in the parking lot waiting for me, and it was not irregular for like a van full of just ratty ass equipment, and like there's my friends there waiting on me, and it's like, hey, like we're going to Georgia, dude. Like we got a show to go to, you know. But it's like, and that's what I'm saying. Like most kids, that were at my high school was like they were doing, you know,
they're getting ready for the Friday night football game.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it was just like for me,
you chose a different existence.
I would show up maybe once or twice, you know, to a home game, and other than that, it was like I was trying to make
Georgia
music.
Real quick. Hold on. Be home Sunday. But dude, that's crazy.
But the first tour was awesome, man, because we were just really young, and we didn't have really like a lot of experience when it came to just getting in a van. And it was funny because like my best friend John, like his uncle, because John played guitar. And it was the thing, is just like all of us were just so, you know, interconnected and close and everything like that. But his uncle was like our driver, dude.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and he was just like, he used to be like a bouncer, like at like these bars and stuff back in Florida.
Little badass dude.
Dude, he was a badass dude. Like lived on a sailboat and was just like John like called his uncle up and was like, hey dude, like my band, like we got some shows, we're about to go on tour. Like, and that was the thing, is we actually went, and all the money that we saved up from that year, we went and bought like a stupid like piece of shit van, and it broke down on us. We didn't even get it back to like,
damn it.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. I don't even want to talk about that.
But that's so it's so exciting though when you have a group of dudes like my band Sidewinder. When you have a group of dudes that's like committed to something, and they saved up all year to buy a van, even if it fucking breaks immediately, you're like, we're getting a van, we're going on tour, this is happening, we're doing this thing. Like that's exciting. Like so
and it worked out.
Yeah. So I'm curious to like, were you eating McDonald's on the road? Were you like sleeping in that crappy van?
Yeah,
like,
we were sleeping in it. Like if I look at pictures, I'm like, bro, it was so disgusting because it was like summer.
Yeah,
you
no
know?
showers.
Yeah, and we're in Florida. We're playing like Summerside show in Atlanta, and
120 degrees.
Dude, it was flefilthy, and we were wearing the same clothes.
Yeah,
like, for most. And it was like back then, it was like we're wearing all black.
Yeah,
you know.
Bro, it's still that way. We jumped on Great American Ghosts tour that they stopped in at the end, and we opened for them, and we haven't toured like crazy, but like those boys, they got out of that van and they smelt to high heaven, and that to me was like, that's like real hardcore.
Dude.
Like those dudes, you could tell that sweat was from 3 weeks ago on the road, and like that type of stench. I was like, holy shit, these guys are
rough.
These guys are going for it.
We would legit we would find a good place at night, like if we were playing like Florida or out by, you know, if there was like an ocean nearby, we would just go and pop the damn like doors open at night and just hope that like no one, you know, wanted to like fuck with us basically. Yeah. And we would just be like 4 little ratty dudes, 5 ratty dudes, you know, and my buddy's uncle. And we're just all passed out in this van, and it's just like just trying to get some of that ocean breeze, like in the morning time, before it gets too hot. And then you
can't let it hit 10 o'clock because you're all of a sudden you're gonna wake up and be like,
oh, it's rough. It was a great time, man. Didn't make any money.
Yeah.
The shows were crazy because I don't know, just like I don't know what it was, but a lot of those shows that we played.
Yeah. What year was this, probably, ish?
This was 2012.
Okay.
Well, no. Yeah, probably 2012, 2011.
So were the shows like full of a bunch of other ratty kids that showed up to ravage the scene?
Super violent.
Super violent.
Yeah, it was it was super, super violent. I mean, it was like, which was hilarious because I look back on that time in my life and I'm like, dude, we were just kids. Yeah. And like, dude, I didn't even realize like some of the cliques that were like in the scene. Yeah. Like until now, when I look back on that, it's kind of funny. Yeah. But yeah, it was very angry music because like we were very angry kids. Like we were pretty pissed kids for sure.
Dude, it's so
we had
crazy.
Such a chip on our shoulder, and it was like us against the world, you know. Yeah. In a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm. Dude, it's crazy because like the most calm individuals, seemingly to the at the surface, the most calm individuals that I know had this angry, like whether it was childhood or teenagehood or early adulthood, this like chip on their shoulder of anger and just like crazy release, especially in the metal scene. Like, you are so soft spoken, you're so like chill all the time, and I'm like, this side of you I have never seen before. So I'm like, I'm curious to what you were like back then, just on a normal basis, day to day.
Well, like I think I've always been like, even when I was like doing like vocals for a hardcore band and like touring and stuff, I was still like the kid with like the headphones on, like listening to like indie rock and stuff like that, you know. And so I guess I've always had like the tenderness, I guess, side, but like always like there's like a wild side, you know.
You need to release,
and like what better way than and like also like I look back on the lyrics and stuff that I was like writing at that age, and like it wasn't like rebellious music or rebellious like lyrics, I guess. It was, I really, when I look at it on paper and I don't listen to the heavy breakdowns or the fast parts, and the where it's just like going full tilt, like like we're in motion, y'all. It is really just like a teenage kid that is just going through regular
purge music.
Yeah, it was just like going through changes in life, seeing your friends go, depression, you know, dealing with depression and anxiety at a very early age and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, I had a lot of stuff in my home life that wasn't so great, and definitely being part of like the hardcore scene growing up, and then also being on stage and like giving back to the community and like trying to be part of something and building something within a scene is just like so special. And you kind of just, you start to realize that there's just way more shit out there for you that is meant for you and wants you to be part of it, you know, and that there's space and there's room. There's so much room. Like even with like what we're doing here in Nashville, like it's so different. Yeah. And I know it probably, like, it's not going to be super understood by a lot of people because we are kind of like we're enigma dudes. Yeah. You know, like we march to our own like beat.
Drum, yeah. We'll talk about that in a little bit, being chameleons, because we are very alike in that way. I'm curious, you were in the band in high school, you did the touring. Let's fast forward a tiny bit and go to what made, because when I chose to go to the Navy, the Boston bombings had just happened, which was like 45 minutes from where I was at. I was literally at lacrosse practice, and then a coach comes running down from the high school saying, "We're getting bombed." And all of us were like, "What the fuck do you mean we're getting bombed?" And we didn't know if that was like, we were all looked up. Like, we're all like, "What do you mean?"
We have no real concept.
Yeah, he didn't say anything else. So we were like right now, like us or like somewhere else.
You're kind of usually just kind of like, okay.
Right. Because it was sort of like, it reminded me of 9/11, because we didn't know, first plane hits, second plane hits. Then everyone's like, no, this is happening. America's being attacked. Then the Pentagon gets hit. And so when the Boston bombing happened, that happened. And then immediately everyone was like, it's going on. And I remember I was a senior when that happened. And I chose in that moment, I was like, I went full America, like Mr. America, bro. I went from like sporty guy who was like trying to go to college for football or lacrosse. And I was like, nope, I'm going to go sign up for the Navy and go kill terrorists. And I was like, it's a super short-sighted 17-year-old.
You're also 17.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like...
You're like, and I forget which movie it was, but it was a Navy SEAL movie had just come out. And I forget which one it was, but I was like, I'm gonna go be a Navy SEAL, because I was so inspired by like I wanted to go save the world sort of thing, and big dreams or whatever. And so I signed up for the Navy, and I left a month after graduation, and then just went to the furthest place I possibly could from where I was at in New Hampshire. Just went to the South Pacific. So you were in the band, and then what made you like shift to sign up for the military? That band must have ended.
So the band was still going.
Really?
The band was still, yeah. It was like we kind of like, I felt burned out by it.
Fair enough.
Because it was like there was a lot of good things going for the band. Like we were, we had already got like a lot of shows, touring underneath our belt. But it was kind of like, I don't know if you've ever felt this, but like,
stagnant.
Well, stagnant, and just kind of like you coming back from a long line of shows, and you're just like
burned.
You're just burned out.
Yeah.
And
you need a change up.
Yeah, you need a change up, and it was like most of my friends at that time were like all going to college, and like, I come from a big family, and like we didn't have a lot of money growing up, so it was like, what am I going to do? Just go get in debt? Or am I just going to go work at a tattoo shop? And then
it was like 3 paths. There's like, go be a junkie, like my friends who died. There's go be a normie and just like do some job at a warehouse or something. And then there's like, how do I get out of here?
Dude, and also when I say tattoo shop, like I'm saying like not your standard run of the mill, but like there was just like a shop that a lot of people that were in the scene like would just kind of hang out, and it was like not trying to show like, not trying to throw like any fade out there, but it was like I didn't want that. Like I didn't really party. I was a good kid. But I needed
something for
I
you
needed
again.
I needed money. And like touring and playing music was a huge escape from not being at home. And I wanted to see the world. I think there's like, we were kind of talking shit about like our 17-year-old selves, but I think it's super normal for just like dudes in general to like kind of want to be the hero. I know it sounds like corny and stupid.
But that's what you feel. Every movie you watch, you're the main character. That's what it is.
Unfortunately.
No, but it's a beautiful thing, because if I didn't have that urge to go, if I didn't have the urge to go be Mr. America, I wouldn't have been around the world twice.
Exactly. So and you get so much experience.
As
from just
stupid
like,
as that was, that's what came out of it. So what branch of the military were you in?
So I was a coastie.
Okay.
Not Navy, but like,
We're close brothers.
We're close brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you signed up, and then did they send you anywhere immediately?
No. So going through boot camp, and that was the thing is like, even making like a decision on like what branch do I want to go into?
Right.
And I had a lot of friends that were they were all coasties doing their things, and they were they had like good things to say about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, because I want to like piece the part of like leaving the band, like why I did it, and like yeah, and that's tough.
Yeah.
That's always tough to talk about.
Yeah. Well, it's probably an emotional decision to. You can't. Yeah, I guess we can't speed
deep.
through that. Yeah.
Well, it's deep because our drummer's like he's paralyzed now.
Fuck.
Yeah, so it's just like when I left, it was like the band didn't really do anything.
Yeah.
It was like they were all kind of like holding on to me, and like kind of got some shit on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
why? How did the drummer get paralyzed?
Just being somewhere where he wasn't supposed to be.
He get shot or something?
No, he fell 3 stories just doing some adventure shit.
Oh my god! And that was before you signed up for the military?
After. I was already in DC.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're trying to. Damn.
Yeah. So it's
That's a heavy shit, man.
Deep.
Yeah, but then you feel like it's all on you.
Yeah, because I'm like, dude, if I would have stayed playing in the band, like maybe that would have never happened to him.
Yeah.
Like I definitely feel.
But that's like one of those things where it's like that's completely out of your control.
Out of my control, and like one of the reasons why like I didn't stay in the band was because shit like that.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I can't just always like be the friend that is like always like babysitting.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Yeah.
But
you also feel the weight of them hanging on to you as sort of a guiding light to their lives a little bit. Like whether people want to admit that or not, it's like, and I know that as a frontman, if I bounced all of a sudden, all this work that we just did for the last 5-6 years is kind of put to the wind, and that's these guys' lives.
Yeah.
So I know that weight of like, being hard to let go of that sort of thing, and
it's tough.
Yeah.
And it's like one of those things where it's like, dude, it was like it's such a. Can I hit that, bro?
Yeah, bro.
You don't mind?
Some
dead.
nicotine, yeah.
Oh yeah. But
it's just tough, dude. That sort of weight is a different type of weight. People don't really talk about that, actually. It's when a band member, especially like a band leader, the front man and stuff, it's heartbreaking. It's like a divorce sort of thing. It is.
Well, it ends friendships.
Yeah.
It ends friendships, and we can talk about that too, because
Yeah.
I do want to go in on this.
Yeah,
I feel like this is some.
It's
good
important.
stuff.
Yeah. I mean, so was there like an initial happening that you were like, this is ending soon. Like, I know this is ending soon. I can't be a part of this anymore.
Yeah, there was. And it wasn't like I didn't care about the music and I didn't care about the band. It was like just more of coming off a long line of shows and touring and just.
Dude, vocalists kill themselves on stage.
Dude, we're crazy.
Yeah.
And like I was always like the guy that like I wanted to be a bass player, dude, in a metal band.
Yeah.
And then like my friends were like, really, my friend John was like, dude, like you should be the vocalist. You're the vocalist. So it was like I kind of got pushed into that role.
Yeah.
So I was always kind of like reserved.
Yeah. But you had to put on every time you went up there.
Yeah.
I like my first tour, I knocked my molar out of my face because I punched myself on the face in Florida. I punched myself with a microphone on stage like an idiot, bro. But this is like the sort of thing, that introvert that we are, when we go on that stage, it's like you have to put out. Like, that's also a different type of pressure. But like in when we got back from that tour, it's like I didn't sleep for 36 hours. I was anxious as fuck. I thought I sucked on stage. There's all these like emotions swirling through your head. So I imagine you coming back from like a line of shows, you're just like, you're absolutely toast. Like,
yeah, it was kind of like we were in a good spot. We were actually getting like some like labels looking at us and stuff like that. But I don't know. It was like sometimes when when there's like too much noise, things kind of just aren't as like meshed as they were, I guess. And like I kind of felt that. And
was it arguments about how things were going to go down?
No, there really wasn't any really like bad like fights. It was just more of,
want to be able to put it down for a second?
No, it was more of like, oh man, I'm having a hard time like describing it.
It's all good, and it was a long time ago.
Yeah,
so.
It was more of like feeling like, I guess, like burned out and not really knowing like what was, I guess, like if we're gonna take like the next step, we're all gonna have to kind of be on
our shit.
Yeah, and
people weren't holding up their end of their shit. Yeah,
and we were so young, like you know, it's like everyone was getting pulled in different directions, and none of us really had like the most stable home life.
It's a bunch of chefs in a kitchen that are fucking cracked out.
It was just like a bunch of broken kids like coming together to make something, and it was great, and it meant something because like I was able to put my heart out, and like I was like the vocalist that like I didn't care, like I was gonna stage dive, like I was gonna get filthy. I was going to make sure that like my art,
they're gonna remember this.
I was like, I want people to know that I mean it.
And
because like the lyrics and stuff that I was writing, they weren't like fuck you, this, that, this. It's like no, like I'm a lonely like kid trying to figure things out, and like I don't have a lot of support, but I have this,
and we wanted people to hear it and feel it.
And it was like awesome because we were a younger band, and we were like, it got to the point where bands who were like bigger than us and from like bigger cities didn't want us playing before them, because
we've had this sort of thing happen
because we were going to show them out. And it, honestly, like as like young as we were like, at least when it came to the showmanship, like that's something that everyone in that band like understood. Was that we're going to put like a show on, and we're going to make sure that even if you don't like our music, you're going to know that we like it and that we care about it and it means something to us. It was... So
the ending of it was probably extremely heartbreaking after all that effort.
It was, because it was, my entire like teenage years basically that I put into playing in a band, being a vocalist, writing the lyrics,
literally blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah, man, running the merch table, like, and I was always like trying to do everything I could to just help the band out, whether it was like just setting up drums and stuff like that. These are like little things that go a long way. But yeah, it was definitely not a popular decision to kind of like leave a hardcore band and be like, hey guys, like I'm enlisting.
It was a what the fuck moment.
Yeah, it was
all of them.
I mean, for some of my friends really, they understood and they got it because I think that they wanted something deeper. And like,
you needed a different adventure.
I needed a different adventure. And like the scene itself, it didn't feel like it kind of felt to me. There was just like a lot of, I don't know, just like there was just like figures in the scene that I was like, man, like why is it got to be so like elitist when like this is so like like we're in the underground, y'all. You know what I'm saying? Like let's keep it that way.
That elitist mentality,
it kills it.
Is exhausting. Bro.
It sucks.
Yeah, dude. It's still out there. Like it's still lingering. Like for example, like Sidewinder, I do not have a genre in my brain, and there's so many different cores, like metalcore, deathcore, fucking sludge core. It's like I don't care, and they seem to all care. And so when Sidewinder plays, I imagine I just as simple as like I think of Avenged Sevenfold, Lamb of God, Pantera, like all my favorites, and putting that on in my art, but everyone else seems to care of what box you're in.
Dude, way too much.
And I'm
especially
like,
here too.
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
crazy. And when you can see it too, like when you see all these bands in drop A or whatever the fuck, and we're in C sharp, and Sidewinder's doing all these, you know, guitar harmonies and melodies. Maybe there's a breakdown in there, but we're different, and it's very apparent, and it's hard to be different for sure.
It's scary to be different.
Yeah.
It's scary to like step out with any kind of art, you know? And like, it's so funny because I mean, like, just this week, it's like you open up any kind of social media, it's like you're going to see like the Brennan dude on his tippy toes, you know? And like the whole world's just been like ripping this guy.
Well, it's like MGK with Cliche. You see that come
No.
out? You haven't seen that one? So he just put out this pop song. MGK just put out a pop song. It's called Cliche. He sort of did it in like an ironic way, and he was dancing. MGK was dancing and doing like his take on like a early 2000s pop record, and he did it as like a tip of the cap and a wink to like, he's like, I know everyone's gonna hate this, yet it's #1 on like all the charts and shit. And I love that shit because he's like digging in his fingernails to all these boxes of people that are just like,
using your resources.
Yeah, well, it's like you think you're a rapper, and when he went against Eminem, there was this whole crowds of people being like, fuck MGK, he got beaten into, his career is over, that's why he switched to punk rock. It's like, no, he just made a punk rock record because he felt like it, that sort of thing.
And that's my thing. I'm like, whether it's hardcore music, whether it is shoegaze, whether it's Afro beats, like whatever the hell it is, like, can you make me feel moved?
Yeah.
And
well,
like,
I've been on Mac Miller the last year, his Circles album, because it just hits me in the guts.
Dude, anytime someone like talks to me about like Mac's music, like it gives me bumps, dude. Like even right now, because it's like that is someone that you know loved their craft and was putting very real shit into it, you know, and like very scary, like honest lyrics, which I appreciate. Yeah, you know, like we need that.
Well, and I had this mental breakdown in November, and it's where this vertigo started. I had, you know, vestibular migraine shit going on, the dizzies for 6 months straight, and the 2 albums that helped me, I would take walks to and just sort of, it was like a listenable chill pill, was Circles by Mac Miller, that whole album, and Parachutes by Coldplay, which all the metal scene that I'm in, they'd be like, dude, what the fuck, you know, and
turn their back on you, basically.
Yeah, and it's I think you're very much like that. Like you were probably in that metal band, but you were listening to the indie bands during the day, and then you'd go out, do your thing, and then come back and be a completely different, not a different person, but like you have compartments in your brain where you can put on and not.
Yeah, you know? I'm also like a very emotional dude.
Yeah.
So like music, whatever genre, whatever vibe you're going for, it's like at the end of the day, like music is a language, you know, and if you can be open enough to take from that and keep your ears open, and like, and that was my thing also, is like I grew up seeing a lot of like, especially like in the church scene, just a lot of people that did not want to expand like their taste, or you know, they were just like seeing it for one thing and missing the complete point of like what the artist is trying to get out there, even if it is gonna clash with like your beliefs. It's like, that's a good thing, dude. Like the fact that you can listen to a song and be challenged is a good thing, you know, even if it's what you believe, or if it's something that you don't, you know, like I wouldn't be caught dead listening to this, but it's like half the time when I'm even working out in the gym, it's like, dude, like I love metal, and like I'll put that on, but dude, I will legit listen to Charlie Puth and Justin Bieber and have the most amazing workout, dude. And it's just like, and I don't need anybody to like, you know, messing my vibe up when it comes to that.
That's
you know?
so fascinating. Well, that brings me to like your new stuff. Like this is where the chameleon really comes out. I your history is so fascinating to me because we have, again, we're very very alike, very similar in a lot of ways, but had a way different childhood. Me from New England, you from South Alabama. I I remember becoming friends with Jack, and then he was like, "This is my friend Josiah," and I was just like, I remember, I think I became friends with you after hearing you were starting your new music. And I had no idea of your past. All I heard was this beautiful sound. And I was like, this is fascinating. Because I was kind of burnt from the whole metal thing. After a certain amount of time, a certain amount of effort, I was like, I can't do this all the time, every time, you know? So I started.
You don't want to be pissed off all the time.
Yeah, you run out of pissed offness.
Yeah.
Like I'm 30 years old.
Like my ears hurt, bro.
Yeah. Then there's that other sensitive side of you that also never got expressed through that music. Mm-hmm. So you burned. It's sort of like Aaron Lewis when he says, he's like, I've written all the sad songs. I've had enough of the sad songs. That's why he went country a little bit. And for me, like going solo and having a buddy that also has my sort of history, whether it was, you know, sports, military, you know, friends passing, you know, traumas, all this shit, screaming, frontman, breaking yourself, and then this sort of evolution in our lives. It was really nice to hear like another person like me. And I heard Honey. I think, was that your first single that you put out?
Yeah, Honey was my first one.
And you were going through a particular time at that
I was
moment.
going through, I was probably, I was really depressed.
Yeah, but dude, that sound doesn't sound like anybody else. Like I listen to that on a normal basis, like on my drives, and sometimes a little tear will come up.
Oh.
Just like, it's one of those, it's that type of music, bro, that it's like contemplation music. It's
honest.
Yeah, and it's that type of shit. I knew you were alone in a room and thinking on some particular things, but you can't exactly put your finger on what it's about, but it's about something. And for every person that listens to it, they're like, this is hitting me in a certain way, and maybe it's not what you meant for it to do, but it's doing this thing like it's magic. Like it's, and it doesn't sound like anybody else. Like I'm like Henry. Was it Henry that did all of this? Mm-hmm. Like Henry Park, for those of you who don't know, is a producer out here in Nashville. Love you, Henry. Yeah, he's amazing. His craft is incredible. But, and also, which song was it that I heard a saxophone on?
Oh, that's IW2K.
Yeah. What does that mean, by the way?
Okay, so like, if you listen to the song, like the main lyric in that one is "I want you to know," and I was just like, let's just have fun with the words, and like, so I just did the whole acronym shit. Like call it a day. Like, it sounds kind of fun. Yeah. So, yeah.
Does it feel extra vulnerable to do, like you've shot? Was it a music video for every little bit of it?
Every bit of it. Yeah.
Every bit of it. And was that the black and white one where you're wearing a?
No, that's Honey.
That's Honey. Okay. How does it feel going from, you know, metal vocalist screaming your ass off to all of a sudden you're in a white room and you're playing this gentle, very beautiful music, like with very intentional lyrics? And because I know for me, I almost feel it's almost like an imposter syndrome that I have, like, because I went from this metal guy, which I never really was personally, but then I did my first single, Follow Suit, and I was like, this is who I really am. I've finally figured out who I am. And I think as soon as I heard your music, I was like, oh, this is Josiah for sure. And so did Josey, is Josey Josiah?
Okay, so Josey is, that is what my granny, the one who was, you know, Bloody Bones is going to get you.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny because, like, we're talking about just, like, attitude and stuff like that. I had a major attitude when I was a kid. Yeah. Like, when I was a little dude running around.
Yeah.
And it's just hilarious because like I would get pissed when my granny would call me Josey.
Yeah,
Like that was her nickname for me.
Yeah.
And I was just like, my name's not Josey, it's Josiah, you know. But with doing like the solo artist stuff, whatever you want to call it, singer songwriter, I'm like, dude, I'm a songwriter.
Right.
You know, it's like, call me what you want.
I don't know
Guitars.
what to call it.
Exactly. I'm just like, dude, I write songs that mean a lot to me and are very like deep. And it's just like a lot of, I think my sound comes from just like my experience with life. And it's not just, oh, I can play in a hardcore band, or because it's like, you know, I was like, Michael Jackson was the first person that ever really made me feel music, like ever.
Really?
Oh, dude, yeah.
Bro.
And it was like,
anyone who knows me right now is like, nah, because that was my first. I was Michael Jackson.
Dude, that's the truth.
Yeah.
It was like, you know, like I would put on
what
the free
about sunrise? What about rain?
So many good ones, man.
Yeah.
But it was like I had the Free Willy VHS.
Yeah.
And
you're a Free Willy boy, dude.
And I would just put that thing on,
yeah.
and I would fast forward it to the very end because at the end of the tape was his like music video, you know, and it was just like the coolest like thing I saw as a kid. So it was just like having that captivation of, you know, being like a 90s kid, you know, and like still having a little bit of like my mom, you know, letting me getting into like Michael Jackson and a lot of soul music because like that was just like very friendly music that you could put on, and like so that was great, you know. But yeah, I think for me it's like I've had so many different types of music that
So you're transmitting all of these influences into, it seems like the real you, like this music. And that's what I got from Henry. I like thanked him over and over because I didn't know what I would sound like like personally as this solo artist, songwriter. I didn't know where all these channels were going to meet. I was kind of scared when I was recording my first solo song because I was like, I have no idea who I am.
Super weird.
Yeah.
You know, especially when it's just you.
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay.
It's no longer I'm copying Phil Anselmo. It's no longer I'm copying Eddie Vedder. Or Chris Cornell. It's like, no, this is just you. And we're going to make you sound like you. And then when I got the song back, I was like, I like cried. I was like, wow. Like all these influences, all these years later, it's like it finally sounds like me. And that's when I was hearing your songs too, and I was like, God, that's beautiful, man. Like that story. Like, how did it feel when you first heard your first song back from Henry?
Oh,
was it hard to hear?
Dude, it was like I was honestly really nervous to release my first one just because like it wasn't the first song that I've written for Josey.
Yeah.
IW2K was actually the first one I wrote.
Okay.
But Honey was like, I wrote that bitch really quick and very naturally. And I was like, man, it's out there, you know. It's super like close to the chest when it comes to being heartbroken, I guess. And just kind of putting it all out there. It's like that's not really the first song that you want to put out,
right?
You know, like
let me put out the most vulnerable song I have.
It's like let me put out one that's gonna get the people going, not one that's just like
same as me. Yeah,
but hey, like sometimes that's just what it is, you know. And it's like I love when music is like Kalani, like that's like one of my favorite artists, just because like in the past, like she's put out a track that it's like, yo, like I've been going through this like a week or 2 weeks ago. It's like just kind of sharing your heart. And
I was going through a breakup when Honey came out, and I remember driving in the car with my ex, and it was like the first mutual breakup I've ever had. Like that's like we don't hate each other. This just isn't working. And I was like, this is my friend Josiah's new song, Josey, and I put on Honey, and both of us are just driving in the car on the highway. It was like this melancholy like it's like the beautiful end to a story sort of feeling. But like I'm telling you, people, if you have a few minutes, if you have a day, go put on Josey's music, because it's like a kiss to the neck of it. It's like even though like there might be some lyrics in there that are like, it's hard, like whatever you're speaking of, like I won't dive into like exactly what you're talking about, but you guys can go find out for yourselves. But like it hit me pretty hard, like as soon as you put it out. I was like, this is what I needed.
Dude, it's so funny. Like there'd be like people hitting me up, and it's, you know, a lot of people going through like breakups, and they're just like, I'm like, okay, like my music can hold space for people, and I think that that's so valuable. And like that's what I want to provide to people, is just show up, feel felt, feel like you're not the only person on the world that's feeling the way that you feel, because if you do, it's like you're just gonna put yourself in a box, and you're just gonna drive yourself crazy. And it's like, for me, it's like I have a hard time like closing people off, and like music is just it's a great way to just be open about like, hey, like this is my story, this is my life, this is how I felt. And it's like I only write songs about things, people, times, places that I really cared about, loved, and cherished. And just kind of just letting your freak flag fly, and just being like, hey, like, this is
the type of music for me anyway that like sort of just falls onto the paper when I'm writing. It's some of it's all in one go, some of it's you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, maybe you had a bad dream, or maybe you had a smell that triggered you in the middle of the day to remember something. But like this, it's feel music. It's just vibes.
Yeah,
I love it.
I think that's the best way I can like really put my music down, is like, I didn't go to a fancy, I didn't go to Belmont. I didn't grow up, doing like performance arts and stuff like that. It was like, music was just a huge escape for me, and it was a place where I could find community and feel like I wasn't the only person just going through whatever it was I was going through in my life, and just being able to share that is really what it's about, man. Just trying to put,
Well, if anybody hasn't told you, I know Jackie Boy probably has, but like as a fellow frontman / old metal vocalist / screamer / trauma-filled human being, I'm proud of you, dude.
Thanks, bro,
for putting that out. Like this stuff means a lot to a lot of people, and I think the world deserves to hear your music for sure.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
And dude, same for you. Same for all of us that are trying to just like heal through the arts.
Yeah.
I know like that's such a broad term.
Yeah.
But it is like, it's scary, but it's also really cool. Like
I think it's the best evolution of us.
Well, it's awesome because it is a journey. It's like you're putting your heart out there, and also like the way that people respond to it, it allows you to, just kind of be like, okay, like I wrote a song, and now it's not really my song anymore. Right. Like it means so much to like whatever someone else is going through, and hopefully it can be medicine. Hopefully be honey.
And letting the people just sort of sit with it and lay. I lay in the suck a lot, so it's like those types of songs are like I don't know. It's like therapy. It's like I look at it like steam out of a teapot when I listen to this vibes music. This it's like soundtrack to your life sort of stuff. Like, and I look at it like steam coming out of a teapot. So I know it means it's going to mean, and it should mean a lot to a lot of people. So
I think with like music, if you're able to kind of like you were saying, like just sit with yourself. Because for me, like when I started doing Josey, just single artist stuff, because I played it, I was playing in a band before Josey, and loved it, dude. I felt like I was writing just awesome songs, like stuff that was like really, you know, felt like me. And, you know, when that ended, it was like, okay, I have 2 songs that I really care about, both very, very personal, super personal. And I think just taking the time to like isolate is like, it's necessary. And I think that like less is more sometimes. Like to not feel like you have to be anybody but you. And sometimes like that just takes you being by yourself for a little bit and figuring your shit out, figuring out like what your soul needs, and figure out like what changes do you need to make like for your heart, like what's going to help you align with, you know, your purpose in life.
Tuning up your bad character traits and sitting with yourself and reevaluating your existence.
Looking into the shadow. Looking into the shadow and just being like, okay, like looking in the mirror and just like, okay, like really seeing yourself and just being like the good, the bad, the fall from graces, the times you've risen to the occasion, and all of it. You know, use it as a filter for your art. And I think like that's really how Josey kind of came to be. Was just like I was in a really dark time in my life, and I had these songs.
Do you feel better now that you put them out?
I do. Yeah, because it's what I should have been doing a long time ago. You know, and like, dude, I've been at this music stuff for a long time. Since I was like 15, you know, but it's a journey too. You know, and everyone's journey is different, and like that's why I love talking to you and like, you know, talking to other people that have just, you know, have different experiences with music, because it is a language, you know, and it's like, if you can hear it, you know, awesome, that's cool. And some people aren't going to, and that's cool too. But just like taking the time to isolate and hone in on your craft and take the time that is necessary. Because that's one thing that we stress out so much, is like, oh, we ain't got all this time. It's like, bro,
life is long too.
Life is long, and life is really short too. You know, like there's, whether like, no matter how you cut it, you know, it's like you literally have people that changed the world when they were 50, 60. And then you got people like Joan of Arc that she only lived till she was 19. And the amount of time that she had on Earth like was life-changing and crazy. You know, the fact that we're talking about it now. But I think it's just like figuring your purpose out. And kind of saying fuck the rest, dude. Like that's the first test of just being like, no, like this is deep. This is part of me, and like I'm not gonna let the world like shut me out. Like I'm gonna put it out, and I'm gonna sing, and I'm gonna try to, you know, share like my life, and hopefully people can take from that.
I hope you keep doing it, bro. I'm in love with your music. I'm in love with this evolution of you. And do you have any plans to play shows? Probably like this summer. It's, you know, it's taken me some time. Me too.
I'm getting like my members and stuff ready. Not ready, but just trying to like organize everything.
Jackie Boy said we should play the show together.
Dude, let's do it. I'm all about that. It'd be so fun. Well,
I think it's a beautiful place to end. I think we've talked about a lot of evolution, and I think I'd like to have you back. Dude, we can dive into some deeper shit as well. I think we went fairly deep enough on this one. Oh, this is Barry, by the way, if anyone hasn't met Barry.
Also, Barry. Cliff, if you're watching, I love you.
Love you, Cliff.
I'll be home soon, Binky.
Shout out, Cliff. But thank you for joining Upload Asylum. Thank you to Josey for coming.
Thanks for having me.
And I hope to have you back, buddy.
Absolutely.
If I could wear your skin, could I see what you're feeling?